And now we're for another segment of the series here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. I'm Armando Velez. I got John Chick of Locked On New York Rangers here with me. We're bringing 3 out of the 4 hosts of the remaining teams here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And John, great to have you on. And first of all, before we start our conversation, congratulations on the new child.
Oh, thank you so much, man. Yeah, she's already a month old, a month and a handful of days here. She's amazing. It's been an unbelievable experience, and my wife and I are both very blessed right now, and she's actually sleeping pretty well, so that's good news as well.
Do you like that this timing came before the Stanley Cup playoffs? How are you feeling?
Oh, 100%, because actually she was about 20 days early. And so she got here before the playoffs had even started. The Rangers had a couple of regular season games left, but they were pretty much locked into their playoff spot. So I missed 1 or 2 games, but yeah, I can't complain, man. I think the timing worked out perfect, and we got her home, and we've been watching the playoffs, dressing her in Ranger clothes, the whole 9 yards, man. It's been fantastic.
That's awesome. And by the time this episode drops on the Locked On Florida Panthers feed, game 1 would have already happened between the Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers. So we don't know the result of that one yet. But let's talk about this playoff run for the New York Rangers. Of course, they come back from 3-1 down against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Of course, the goalie situation that happened with the injuries with Casey Smith bringing in Louis Domingue. But of course, the Igor Shesterkin, the power play continuing to be great for the Mika Zibanejad is playing well. The kid line is producing for Rangers. And of course, Breadman, Artemi Panarin, honorable mention for him. Let's get a little bit about how you're feeling about the Rangers being right now in the Eastern Conference Final, a rematch of 2015.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, man. Coming into this season, it's the first time out of, 3 seasons of Locked On New York Rangers since this podcast has been in existence that I looked at this team and I looked at, the lay of the land in the Eastern Conference, so to speak. And I said, yeah, I think that the Rangers should be a playoff team this year. And I think that they will be one. It was the first time that I put it at more than a 50-50 shot that I thought that they would get in at the end of the season. But did I think they would be one of the last 4 team standings in the Eastern Conference Finals? No, I did not at all. It's a team that is clearly kind of arrived ahead of schedule here. You mentioned Igor Shesterkin doing his thing. And yeah, man, I mean, just something about this team, man, when they've got their backs against the wall, they're at their absolute best now, 5-0 when facing elimination in the playoffs. It's just been an incredible ride. And up next is the Tampa Bay Lightning. I know there probably aren't too many Panther fans that want to see the Lightning win another Stanley Cup, so you got to start rooting for the Rangers. You don't really have much of a choice, and just really looking forward to the series. And, the fact that the Rangers have faced elimination 5 times, going into game 1, I'm just happy that it's a game 1, and of course you want to win it, get the series off to a good start, but you know what? Hey, at least your season's not over if you lose. So I'm just very much looking forward to the start of the playoff run here. Or the conference final run here.
Mm-hmm. They're playing with house money right now. It's funny because in the offseason when the New York Rangers signed Gerard Gallant, former Florida Panthers head coach Gerard Gallant, we talked about at the time how they felt like they overachieved with David Quinn, and it wasn't a popular firing by MSG to let him go. They overachieved even that season. They overachieved this season and you talk about this team getting a number 2 overall pick just recently in Kakko, number 1 overall pick in Alexis Lafreniere. I mean, that phase 2 of the draft fell in the favor of the Rangers, definitely, for sure. And of course, it wasn't an encouraging first season for Alexis Lafreniere, but man, this dude has just been so much better, and he's definitely producing. How are you feeling about his development?
No, he's been great. I think he's really stepped up in these playoffs. There was a time where the Rangers were obviously struggling in that first round series against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And you mentioned the kid line, man, and those guys really stepped up. There were a lot of superstar players on the Rangers who just were not playing up to their capabilities. You could probably even include Igor Shesterkin in that. I mean, I realize he got hung out to dry in games 3 and 4 of the Pittsburgh series, didn't get a lot of help, but he'd probably be the first one to tell you that he didn't have his A game. Artemi Panarin wasn't quite at the top of his game. I still don't think we've seen the best out of Artemi Panarin. Hopefully it's coming soon. It's probably going to have to be. But Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad, off to kind of rough starts in the first period. Mika's really taken off since then. And Kreider, he's kind of been hot and cold the entire playoffs. And it was the kid line that really stepped up and was kind of driving the play for the New York Rangers, scoring some big goals. And it's just been awesome because, you mentioned Kakko and Lafreniere. Filip too. He's having a breakout season for this team, or a breakout playoff run here. And it's just been awesome to see all three of them at the same time playing probably the best hockey that any of them have ever played since coming into the league. I mean, the timing could not possibly be better. And with Lafreniere, I've always said I think he's a little bit underrated as a defensive player, and he's made a lot of really big plays in this playoff run, kind of on the back check, preventing some scoring opportunities. And somebody that even has, maybe developing a little bit of an edge to his game where he's kind of getting under the skin of some of his opponents as well. So it's just been awesome, man. All three of those kids are bringing it every single night. And it's huge. I mean, that's when the Rangers become dangerous, is when those three start playing up to their capabilities, for sure.
Yeah, and a player that I want to mention another reason to root for the New York Rangers. I mean, you don't have to do much convincing on this podcast on this end, but I also think about two people who had relation to the Florida Panthers: the head coach Gerard Gallant, and then of course Frank Vatrano, who got traded to the New York Rangers towards the trade deadline for a 4th-round pick, and then that 4th-round pick was used to acquire Ben Sherratt. So it was kind of like playing chess at the time. Of course, Frank Vatrano got scratched 11 times before getting traded, so it just really was about fit for Vatrano. And I mean, you see what he's doing the last 22 games, being part of the top line, 8 goals, 5 assists, and then in the playoffs this season, 3 goals, 5 assists in the playoffs right now. How have you been how have you been feeling about Frank Vatrano's game during these playoffs?
Yeah, no, I mean, he's been great. I mean, a little bit of a quiet series against Carolina, relatively speaking to what he did near the end of the regular season for the Rangers, and even in the first round against the Penguins there. But, part of the reason for that is he's on the Mika line, and they were matched up with the Stahl line pretty often. And that Stahl line, man, they can just suffocate you and just really give you nothing. So that's part of it. But he was exactly what the Rangers needed. There's so many players on this Ranger team, and they've gotten better about this over the last couple of seasons. But, man, everybody just wants to make that perfect pass, set up that perfect highlight reel goal, set up their buddy for an easy tip-in goal. And sometimes you just got to put the puck at the net. And Frank Vatrano, he's that guy, man. Shoot and ask questions later. And why not? I mean, he's got an excellent shot. He's been able to take advantage of it at times, down the stretch for the Rangers here. And hopefully he can, kind of step it back up for the Rangers in the Eastern Conference Final here. He had a 2-point game against the Canes in Game 4, but other than that, I think was held off the score sheet. He might have had an assist last night. I think he did, actually. But, yeah, man, Vatrano's been great, and the fact that the Rangers were able to pick him up for just a 4th-round pick, yeah, pretty awesome. He's done a heck of a job for this team for sure, and obviously, kind of help them fill out the lineup a little bit.
I believe on that first power play goal in Game 7, I don't think he got an assist, because if we're counted, definitely he would have gotten one if those existed. But he was part of making that power play goal happen for the first goal for the New York Rangers. That one I definitely remember. I was like, Frank Vatrano. I was like pointing at the screen. Frank Vatrano. He made it happen there. And gotta ask you for the New York Rangers. We talked about house money, Gerard Gallant, Frank Vatrano, everything that the New York Rangers are doing. But man, I want to ask you, a lot of the people in the analytics community point out a lot of expected goals against for the New York Rangers as a way of kind of downgrading their success for this season. At least that's it. What do you got to say to people who talk about that side of things and how they don't think that that New York that this team is legit? A lot of people might not think that, but what do you got to say when you hear about those responses based on
I mean,
that?
It's something that I've been talking about off and on, kind of throughout this run here, and certainly now that they're into the Eastern Conference Final. Those next-gen stats, analytics, algorithms, whatever you want to call it, they have their place, and I think for sure that they can, give you some useful information about how certain teams are playing, and the way that is this team playing over their head a little bit? Is this team underachieving and they're bound to turn around? But this game has a pulse, man. This isn't a computer simulation out there. They're breathing, living human beings out there playing this game. And, the one thing that I talked about, we've got an episode that's dropping later tonight, midnight, although by the time this episode comes out, I guess it'll already be out. But, I just mentioned that, pretty much what I just said there, that, not everything can come down to a computer simulation. This Ranger team, an extremely tight-knit bunch. These guys have each other's backs. And, a lot of people like to point at the fact that, oh, man, among all the playoff teams, they're the worst at 5v5. Okay, fine. You know what? We've got an awesome power play that we've been able to has gone to an even better level in the Stanley Cup playoffs. They're scoring on nearly a third of their power play opportunities. We've got a great penalty kill. There's a lot of guys out there that just really make it difficult for the team on the power play to really set anything up, get any good scoring opportunities. And we've got a phenomenal goalie. And I'm not going to apologize for any of those things. That those are all really key components to any team. And so, yeah, I mean, look, again, those stats, they have their place, but you can't measure, things like the chemistry of a team and just having that moxie to get the job done when your backs are against the wall. Again, 5-0 in the playoffs. There's no, computer simulation to explain that. That just comes down to guts and playing your best when you absolutely need to.
And that's something that Gerard Gallant brings to the table.
Oh yeah.
The broadcast mentioned about how when he advanced to the Eastern Conference Final, winning Game 7, Sean McDonough spoke about how he was back at the scene of the crime where he got fired by the Florida Panthers. And then, of course, that viral photo of him in the taxi cab. It hurt a little bit. Not gonna lie, that hurt a little bit for me hearing that. But I'm so happy for Gerard Gallant. I'm so happy for Frank Ricciano. And of course, this is a great underdog story for the New York Rangers if they happen to get over the Tampa Bay Lightning. Of course, I'm rooting hard for them. I got to ask you, though, what's your prediction for this series?
It's going to be tough. I mean, I haven't even gotten to the point where I'm going to say this team in this many games, but I think this is going a bare minimum of 6 games, probably 7. I think the Rangers can match up with this team. I mean, the Lightning, they're the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions for a reason, but the more I see from this Ranger team, and not even just the playoffs, really throughout the entire regular season, anytime they face adversity, anytime they were coming off of, kind of a bad performance, they would always bounce right back in the next game and play some of their best hockey. And that's carried over into the postseason as well. And again, it's hard to put your finger on it. It's hard to quantify it, but it just has that feeling where, man, this could be our year. And, Armando, you mentioned that the Rangers are playing with house money this year. And in a way they are. But something else that I talked about in my podcast is, man, you've done so much already here. You come back from 3-1 against the Penguins. You come back from 3-2 against the Canes. And you never know for sure when this opportunity is going to come around again. Of course, yeah, they're very young. It looks like they're set up for many, many years to come. And that championship window should stay open for a while, just, no matter what happens this year. But you just never know, man. So it'd be awesome. They're already ahead of schedule. If this season ends with them raising the Stanley Cup over their head, I don't even know what I'm going to do, man. I'm just going to lose my mind because I just never thought coming into the season that we'd be in this position here. I'll be the first one to admit that. But again, you get this opportunity, you make it this far, you want to take this thing all the way to the finish line and just end with a championship because Ranger fans don't get many championships.
So what's your pick?
Rangers in 7.
Rangers in 7. Okay. And they have home ice advantage.
They do.
Throughout the playoffs. I mean, they tied in points, but they got more regulation win that earned them the tiebreaker. And hey, that you take any advantages you get. I mean, Florida's had it twice over the Tampa Bay Lightning home ice advantage in past 2 years, and they still wait. And you said power play is a big factor in it, of scoring over a third of their power plays. Florida didn't have that. The goaltending, they have the goaltending. Florida had that in the postseason, but of course the power play didn't come to fruition. And of course, guts. That's what, and the willingness to put your body out there to try to win. And you said it best. In elimination games for this New York Rangers team. So it's possible. It's a big hill to climb, but it's definitely possible. So, John, I want to thank you for coming on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast on this bandwagon of the show. And Panther fans, we're rooting hard for you guys. That's for sure. So tell everybody where they can find you and your work.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at jchick17, and then of course you've got the Twitter handle for the podcast itself, which is at LO_NY_Rangers. And of course, you can listen to the Locked On New York Rangers podcast pretty much wherever you're listening to this, or if you happen to be watching it on YouTube, we're on there too. So yeah, definitely come check us out. And yeah, let's just buckle up and get ready for what's going to be a crazy finish to what's already been a crazy Stanley Cup playoff run here.
I'm excited, and definitely, guys, definitely check them out. So, thank you, John. Hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. And we'll definitely have to do a couple off-season episodes as well.
No doubt. Thank you, man.
All right.